Hello.
Yes.
Morning, everyone.
Hello. Waiting to let a few more in. How is everybody on this lovely rainy day again?
It's sunny here in
How is it?
west of the county, yeah.
In Bridgewater, it's sunny.
Yeah, sunny and Taunton.
Is it? Yeah.
It's grey here near Froome.
On and off, isn't it?
Yeah.
Meant to be horrible the weekend, isn't it?
Yeah. Really grim.
Well,
I look forward to.
There's a few more coming in, but we'll make a start anyway. So welcome everybody, First Thursday Club. What we'll do, we've got this today sponsored and supported by Gravity. So we've got Claire Pierce speaking to the group. Hi Claire. Go around the room and do some brief intros from everybody. I think most of you have been before, but I think we've got a few new ones on the call as well coming in. We'll go around the room, just a couple of minutes, just who you are, what you do. Housekeeping, if you are not talking, just try and keep on mute so it doesn't interrupt Claire when she's speaking. I will be recording it so I can circulate that after the event. And if you do not want your details shared, just put a note in the chat just to say you don't want your email shared with the group afterwards. So yeah, I will start with Natalie. Hi, Natalie.
Good afternoon. So I'm Natalie Beecham. I am the project lead for the Hinckley supply chain. So we spend our days helping local and regional businesses access opportunities at Hinckley Point.
Thank you, Natalie. Paul, I think everybody knows you, but we'll come on to you next.
Thank you, Laura. Good afternoon, everybody. Paul Lowndes, Project Director, Gravity.
Thanks, Paul. Curtis.
Hi, everyone. My name's Curtis Bartlett of Bartlett Bid Management. I'm a bid writer, tender support, offering services to SMEs.
Brilliant. Thank you, Curtis. Colin.
Yeah, I'm Colin Whitworth. I work for JSP Limited. I live in Taunton, but we're based in Oxford. Manufacturers of above-the-neck PPE, height safety and traffic management.
Colin. Dan.
Hello, Dan Weeks from MMES, Mike Morgan Electrical Services in Bridgewater. Mike wasn't able to make it today, so I've stepped in as he's out on site at Hinckley.
Brilliant. Thanks, Dan. Nice to see you. David. Hi, David.
Hi, nice to see you all. So I'm part of Southwest Aerial Surveys. We're a company that uses UAVs or drones to capture survey-grade geographic data for companies.
Brilliant, thank you. Damien?
Hi everyone, I'm Damien. I'm business manager for CEMAF. So CEMAF is a consultancy company specialized in mechanical design for the energy industry. So we work a lot with Hinkley Point C.
Lovely, thanks Damien. Ash?
So hi everyone, my name is Ash Khan and I work for Train for All, and we're a training provider specialising in construction and engineering as well as traineeships.
Lovely, thank you. Nigel? Hi Nigel.
Hi there, hi everyone. Nigel Hatfield from Hatfield White. We're commercial surveyors. We deal on the valuation side of the business, and we're based in Taunton but cover the Southwest Peninsula and Somerset in particular.
Brilliant, thank you, Nigel. Alan? Hi, Alan.
Oh, I'm Alan. I'm the Alan Winslow. I'm the information manager for the Somerset Chamber of Commerce Hinckley supply chain team. So I deal with basically all the data on the system. I provide the details for companies to the contractors when there is work package capability match requests. So basically anything portal related or our interaction with the client or the contractors I deal with.
Brilliant, thank you. Greg?
Hello, I'm Greg Van Loon from Astron Fire and Security. We look after the accommodation needs for Hinkley Point C at Sedgemoor and on site at Hinckley. And we do what it says on the tin. anything fire and security.
Brilliant, thank you. James. Hi, James, one of our newest members.
Hello, hi there. I'm James Horner and I'm from Stride Crown. I'm based in Bristol, but we've got lots of offices across the UK. I'm the head of technology and innovation, and I'm an architect by background and working on lots of laboratory projects at the moment primarily, but also responsible for IAPS, which is the Advanced Centre for Automotive Technology over at the Bristol and Bath Science Park.
Thank you. Mark?
Hello everyone, I'm Mark. I'm from Clearflow Limited. We're a drainage company based in Yeovil, but we also cover the whole of the Southwest.
Brilliant, thank you. Lovely, nice to meet everybody. I think I've met most of you before, but it's hard to tell on these Zoom calls. Okay, look, I'll hand over to Claire. I'll share the slides for you, Claire, so if you just say next slide. So yeah, over to you.
Lovely, thank you, Laura, and good afternoon, everyone. So I'm going to run through some of the slides when they come up quite quickly. It might be a little bit repetitive for some of them some of you that have been on a call before with Paul and I. So I'll try to focus on the slides later on, if I may. And obviously, Paul and I are very happy to take any questions towards the end. So if you just take us into the first slide, please, Laura. So today I'm going to cover an update of the strategic context, really what we're learning as we develop this process, how we're trying to make it happen on the ground. So our focus is very much on sales at the minute and refreshing the planning process, developing our thinking about transportation, and creating a community. So there's a lot going on in terms of us working out the detail. So today is just a staging post, you know, along the way in that journey. I think what's been quite helpful since we spoke to you last time is we've had our first business leaders meeting, which Stephen Hennigoff chaired for us, which had business leaders from across the whole of the Southwest. What we're keen to do is have a coordinated private sector and strong view about Gravity as being a UK destination for inward investment in an international context. So that meeting went really well. And as a result of that meeting, we're going to strengthen our website and have a business focus, which is less about supply chain development. That's obviously still there, but is more about external positioning of the UK in that international market. So what we're finding as we focus on tenants and sales is that we don't really have a strategic or coordinated proposition for the Southwest region. So there's a gap that we've identified. So it's really important that we try to address that collectively, working with our colleagues across other business leadership organisations. So I think that's a key thing that we need to do. We're also developing our business charter. So that will be part of the planning process, and that really will be the commitment about using local labour, but also local supply chain. So that's really important that we push on with that. And of course, we continue to have our register on our Gravity website to register interest, although we're keen to manage expectations at the moment, because obviously contracts are going to be dependent on securing occupiers, etc. So keen to make sure that we're very open and transparent with everybody about what's currently available, and then looking ahead in terms of what might be available into the future. So let's move on to the next slide, if we may, and I'll just briefly touch on the strategic context. We're working very closely with the Department of International Trade at the minute, because Gravity is a destination for foreign direct investment, and DIT are working with us to promote the site overseas. And I've just put up a couple of key points really, so you can see how the government and Gravity are positioning the site externally. I think the danger for us all locally, including me based in Taunton, is that we kind of know the site, we're used to the site, we see it very much as part of Somerset and the Southwest, but obviously we're promoting it in an international context. So the kind of things that we're pushing are the alignment of the site with the Prime Minister's 10-point plan for a green industrial revolution and that progression to net zero carbon. So we are targeting advanced manufacturing. We're pushing really hard the amazing ecosystem of academic organisations, including the IAPS facility, which has already been mentioned today, along with the Bristol Robotics facility, as well as the Bristol Smart Lab, for example. We've got an amazing set of assets in the region to support advanced manufacturing, and we've got a really strong offer in addition to the transport infrastructure around ports and airports. So we really are quite well placed to land foreign direct investment. Obviously, we all know that Somerset and the Southwest has an exceptional environment in terms of offering a really excellent quality of life to the workforce. So that's something that we want to be very clear on to overseas occupiers that might want to come here relative to other countries. And we have already got the capacity and the experience of working on large infrastructure projects like Hinkley Point C. So we know we're capable and able of stepping up into big projects, delivering big projects and mobilising a supply chain to deliver them. So again, that's something that we're promoting. We're obviously talking to the college as a lead provider on working with potential occupiers in terms of coordinating, you know, a workforce development strategy as they have done on Hinkley, but very much being the tip of the spear, but actually then linking through to other universities and institutes of technologies across the whole of the Southwest. So they also have the experience of working with large investors internationally and with the government to be that front end sales function. So that's something that is happening this week as well. So that's an excellent step forward. So let's move on to the next slide as we go into the details of the Gravity site specifically. So very, very quickly, I'm sure you all aware that it's the old Royal Ordnance factory between Puriton and Woollavington, which is just off junction 23 of the M5, just over 600 acres, planning consent for an energy park and a new process underway called a local development order at the moment, which is a different form of consent, which is a little bit more strategic, actually, less detail, accompanied by a design guide to look at creating over 1 million square meters of commercial development, plus ancillary services, hotels, and actually up to 750 new homes for the workforce as part of a new smart campus. So quite different thinking, and we are advanced in that process, and we would want to secure consent by the end of November of this year. So let's move on again. The focus, as you probably are aware by now, is on clean and inclusive growth. So progressing and accelerating action towards net zero carbon economy, but also making sure it's inclusive, you know, in terms of use of local labour, local business, and also making sure that we design the site to be as inclusive as possible. I've mentioned already it's very closely aligned with the Prime Minister's ambition around you know, climate change action, and therefore we are targeting advanced manufacturing, and I'll come back to that later. But transport decarbonisation is the government's current focus. You'll see lots of things in the news about progress towards electric vehicles, electric vehicle manufacturing, and that's really where we see quite a huge opportunity for the Southwest to step into. At the moment, we're looking for approximately 4,000 new jobs, and that's the basis on which we're progressing the local development order. So let's move on again. In terms of where we're at making it happen, we're continuing to work really hard on planning, but also securing occupiers. I have to say, Department of International Trade and also the Office for Investment are working with us on a daily basis now. I think if you'd asked me a year ago, I would have said they were working with us and are promoting us, but I don't think they realise how important the site is to the UK. I think that penny has dropped, and I can honestly say they are being really supportive and working with us on a daily basis, and they have a lot of staff deployed on making this happen. So it does very much feel that the site is at the centre of making things happen. Paul has been busy preparing the site, so the phrase that we're using is the site is in a ready state. We're ready for an occupier. Groundworks can start immediately, so we're very attractive to incoming investment. We hope to complete the road shortly, and our priorities remain this year planning and occupier. So let's move on. I just wanted to reflect back some observations and learning really that, you know, I might have just touched on, but it's all very easy for someone like me to set out an ambition, but what we're realizing now is that ambition is actually deliverable. So we set out our stall pretty high really to attract foreign direct investment, clean and inclusive growth. We have more and more confidence that we can deliver that. So we are attracting international inquiries. You know, we have the support of DIT. We've got evidence now that we're working in a competitive and global marketplace, competing against other countries. So we kind of talk as a team about being Team UK, you know, so that is very much happening. And as part of that, we're having to champion the Southwest as a whole and the UK as a whole. And I think that's really important when we're all talking about the site locally and how we position it. So to an overseas investor, politics and organisational boundaries, the boundaries of local enterprise partnerships is all quite irrelevant really. You know, to an overseas investor, they don't really understand the Somerset boundary versus the Heart of the Southwest, you know, boundary, or the Western Gateway boundary. They're just looking at almost a 250-kilometre zone from the Gravity site. So you can see the scale of what we're dealing with is actually quite different, and it's actually even more different from the Hinkley Point C. I would say it's slightly bigger in scale and legacy and value than Hinkley Point C. So at the moment, we're really fortunate that we have effective working relationships with the port. We're working very closely with the port now, with the Bristol Smart Lab team from Bristol University on a 5G project to look at digital technology in the M5 corridor, to look at how we can manage logistics, something that hasn't happened before. So very much trailblazing testbed stuff in terms of how we can do that. And really that is all informing our planning strategy. The planning strategy is around accelerating consents, fast track delivery, simplified planning. So we'll be designing a process as part of the local development order to expedite the necessary approvals quickly to meet an occupier's needs. So the local development order is very much a market-led local development order rather than a speculative process that sort of sits on the shelf. Let's move on from A. There's quite a lot of talk in the press around gigafactories, you know, and that word is something that probably we won't use in this context locally, but what we're looking at is large scale advanced manufacturing facilities to help us transition towards this net zero carbon economy. So these are something that the government is trying to attract into the UK. We see huge opportunities for this. We've done our own advanced manufacturing study to look at market opportunities globally, and we do see this as an opportunity. But they really are large-scale advanced manufacturing facilities, quite a lot of AI robotics in them as well. So we expect, to have a large-scale advanced manufacturing facility in our planning approach as we move forward. And we see this as being a key transformational opportunity, really. The site already, previously had, one large occupier on it. I'm not saying it's going to be one, but it might be one with a supply chain, or it might be 150 businesses. It'll be market led, but certainly, a large scale advanced manufacturing facility will be one of the options we put forward as part of the local development order. Let's move on. The other things, obviously, just briefly wanted to mention, of course, we want to keep our options open. So we will include in some of the scenarios things like data centres, R&D, biosciences, even agri-tech. So we want to make sure that we have flexibility to be able, for the site to be able to respond to market inquiries. Let's move on again. And we'll move on again. So in terms of this site, it is actually in a really good location at the centre of the southwest, equidistant between Exeter and Bristol. But of course, in order for it to function and operate within a wider region and UK, the transport infrastructure has got to be fit for purpose. So we will obviously need to have a multimodal transport strategy. We will need to have all of the things that Hinkley Point C has in terms of freight management strategies, travel plan strategies for staff. But we want to make sure that the strategies can be delivered in a clean way. So clean growth will be very much part of the transport strategy. So there will be all the things you'd expect in it, from passenger rail and rail freight at Gravity. So we're working hard on rail solutions at the minute, and Network Rail are working really closely with us on that. But we'll also have to look at things like, bus services in due course, as well as micro mobility, so e-bikes, e-scooters, for use on site as well as linking off site. So there's an awful lot to do on this, but transport decarbonisation is a theme that will have to run right the way through the whole of the Gravity strategy, and we would want to work very closely with any occupiers on making sure we have clean and inclusive transport solutions. So let's go on to the next slide. Clearly, there are so many market opportunities around this, both from a supply chain development point of view, but operational point of view. So it's going to be this collaboration with occupiers that's going to be really central to how we shape the strategy. So there's a number of options available for us. We're not going to be able to deliver everything at once up front. So it's going to have to be phased. But what we do have is this range of solutions that we can offer on site, and we're in discussions with a number of different partners to explore what might be possible and when. So we see this as a really exciting part of Gravity and part of that test bed, that we want to create. So let's move into the smart community part of Gravity, which we've not discussed previously, really. So I mentioned at the start that we wanted to create a smart campus, and about having 750 homes on the site. This is really, really important. A couple of things really just to flag. Our area is short of high value employment. So part of this strategy is about creating high value employment in Sedgemoor, in Somerset, to help reduce out commuting. At the moment, we have an awful lot of people that travel out of area every day to work in Bristol and Bath. So creating this high value employment is a key part of the transformational agenda. We also have to look the other way, creating high value homes that are sustainable, net zero carbon, that can help attract people back to the area or stay in the area. So what we're looking at here is about 750 homes, which is just under 20% of the workforce that we're planning to use on the site as an integral part of the offer to help people really achieve a new balance. We know from the pandemic that the focus on well-being is increasingly strong. So we want to make sure that the Gravity campus has a range of services from leisure through to homes, through to the open space and the environment that we want to create. So we see housing as a key part of that. So the next month, really, we will be doing more work on this. And then as we go into June, July, we'll be doing some more work with the community on actually discussing what this smart community might look like from a work, live, play perspective. We don't want to create just a business park where people have to drive in every day. That is not what we're about. So we will continue with the technical work, and as part of that technical work, we're creating a digital twin of Gravity so we can test different scenarios and different models to see how we can best achieve net zero carbon status. We'll start then to have the informal consultations from June onwards, and we'll probably have a second phase of informal information and engagement towards August, September time as well, because by that time we'd hope our plans would be refined, and then we're still looking at decisions in November. So that's the timeline that we're working to at the minute. So if you just pop through the next few slides, what I just wanted to share was the type of information we're having to share with occupiers. And you can see when you're looking at targeting international occupiers, you really have to have a position in terms of homes available and hotels. So this is the hotel one, and you can see that we're looking at a very broad region in terms of hotel accommodation. And I mean, Hinckley has done us an enormous favour, really. We've all got 600 bed spaces available in hotels in Bridgwater now. So I'm hoping that, Gravity can actually be a legacy beyond Hinkley Point C, so we can sustain the facilities that have been enabled through Hinkley Point C. So the hotel accommodation really is very strong. If you move us on to the next slide, occupiers are interested in how they can attract talent. And again, looking across the broader region, they're interested in our universities, our qualified labour force in terms of standards, that they're looking at workforce availability, commuting times, but they're also interested in actually leisure assets as well, well-being, open space. But fundamentally, attracting talent is something that is coming out very strongly as something that we need to position and be ready to be able to articulate. So I think that's quite helpful just to share with you. In terms of the next slide, one of the things that has been the focus this week with one particular inquiry is lifestyle and well-being. If you're going to move your company from overseas into the UK, you want to be able to assure your workforce that you're bringing that we can offer a diverse range of lifestyle choices, from city living to rural living to nightlife through to surfing. So we've had to strengthen our narrative, if you like, around lifestyle and well-being in a Southwest context. And that's been a really positive part of the journey this week as well. And just moving on to what might be, by comparison, slightly more boring than lifestyle, is that as well as lifestyle, homes, hotels, the other focus for overseas occupiers is obviously the local education system. So we have an amazing education system in the UK, an amazing National Health Service, and we've been articulating that to occupiers this week. They are really impressed with our education system in terms of our our universities. They're really impressed with the college and all of the infrastructure around the college. They're very impressed with what we've done collectively at Hinkley Point C. But obviously schools and the local education service is an important building block in that whole process. And also things like emergency services, you know, the Blue Lights team, police, fire and ambulance has also been raised this week. And again, Hinkley has given that uplift to local services that we can offer now to an international investor. So Hinkley has helped us to prepare and has made us really well placed as an area to attract, you know, foreign direct investment. So that's all I wanted to cover with you today, but hopefully that's been a really helpful update for you, and happy to take questions, but obviously all of the hard questions need to go to Paul.
Thank you, Claire. Brilliant, that's really interesting. So has anybody got any questions initially for Claire or Paul? I've got a couple. Oh, Curtis, if you've got a question.
Yeah, just a small question about the housing on the site. Obviously, housing is a major issue at the moment, but everywhere I go where there are new developments, they're all luxury apartments and townhouses. Even if there's an affordable element of the project, of any project really, it's not really affordable. So what are your plans to have affordable housing on site?
Yeah, it's a good question, actually. I mean, this is something that we're going to have to talk to the local planning authority about really carefully. I used to be the head of planning at the local planning authority, so I understand the issue really well. I think it's going to be an interesting discussion point, because I think one of the key things is that the smart campus and community is going to be driven by the workforce. You know, it's not necessarily a location for affordable housing delivery in the normal business as usual context. It's not the right place for that. And the driver for the housing to be located on site is to meet the workforce needs. So I think, therefore, the interpretation of creating a range of housing offers on site is going to be around net zero carbon homes, modular construction, providing a range of homes of different size and scale in terms of unit size, but also trying to work with providers, delivery partners, to see if we can create a housing product that is more accessible to key workers. And there are models in other cities, it's not being done in Somerset or the Southwest, where you can try to create a product that is more affordable to a young professional. I think we probably all have different views about what affordable means as well. So maybe different forms of tenure, shared ownership, different product types. I don't think we will be providing a typical range of affordable housing that you would normally see in a business as usual context, because I don't think that would fit, and the justification for that wouldn't fit with a planning strategy, which is about delivering homes for the workforce. So we're going to have to create something bespoke here, I think, about creating products that are more affordable, but we're very early on in that thinking. And I'm sure, you know, there will be market interest, you know, in this, and it's something that we're going to have to talk to housing providers about in due course. But it's a really good question, and something that's very much on our agenda, because it's clean and inclusive growth, and we want to make sure that we do have a range of housing options on site.
Thank you.
Thanks, Curtis. Anybody else got any burning questions?
Yeah, I was just wondering, with the pandemic, has that had any effect on the accommodation, the planning of the development, or any of the construction happening on site and the activities there?
Paul can probably comment on the construction side first, and then I'll come back to the planning if I may after that. So Paul.
Yeah, so James,
regarding the construction, we're blessed because we have 600 acres and a kilometre and a half of link road. The nature of the works to date have been remediation and civil construction. So COVID has had very little impact on activities on the site. In fact, we haven't missed a beat. We've carried on pretty much as usual. And I know, Claire will come on to the planning aspects of this, but I think that in many respects, when the government talks now about flexible ways of working, build back better, net zero carbon, more and more ambitious targets to net zero carbon, this very much plays into the hands of projects like Gravity. We're very, very lucky. We're blessed because we have a blank canvas. When you look at the agenda in the context of existing buildings, many of which might be outdated B-class, C-class buildings, it's a much more challenging agenda to build back better, achieve net zero carbon, etc. In Gravity, because it's a blank canvas, the whole pandemic and the whole agenda plays to the hands of projects like Gravity. Claire.
Thank you, Paul. And yes, just to reiterate some of those points, really, I think the Gravity vision and brand was established pre-pandemic. So this experience has only really strengthened our commitment to the whole vision and really has brought others along with us more closely. I think it's something that hasn't been done before in terms of what we're setting out to achieve. So alignment is going to be a key thing, and working out solutions with occupiers in due course. So I think it's given us greater strength, greater commitment as a team, but also with partners. It certainly strengthened our thinking around lifestyle and well-being, and I think it's maybe challenging other people's perceptions of Gravity in terms of a place to do business. So rather than thinking that we're kind of a dormitory, region and we all commute to London, Bristol or Bath, actually you can have a regional destination that is a centre for advanced manufacturing. You can do business here, you can base yourself here, and I think we can create a new place. And I think that's the challenge for the planning process, is that we are really creating a new place, a new community, and we are integrating the live, work, play brand. So we do want all of those facilities on site, and if people do want to live and work and have a different quality of life, then they can do that. Someone pushed back a few weeks ago and say, why would you want to live and work in the same place? Well, some people, not everybody, but some people do want that opportunity. Others might want to live in Bristol and commute by rail to Gravity. Others might want to work from home in Somerset, or Bridgewater, and actually come to Gravity to work from home for the day rather than travel. So I think the pandemic has really challenged a lot of people's thinking, pushed us all into remote working, and actually has proven that we can do it, and has given us different options, different flexibility. So I think it's strengthened the planning case, actually, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the art of the possible is. You'll hear me say that quite a few times, but I think we kind of know now what the art of the possible is through the pandemic, and we can try to translate that into reality on the ground at Gravity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's strengthened everybody's sort of way of life, I suppose, and what they actually think is the norm. You wouldn't have, you know, a couple of years back, you wouldn't have dreamt of working from home if you're meant to be in an office. But now it's the norm, isn't it? So yeah, it's definitely had that positive effect. Nigel, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, hi. Obviously, we've all been locked up in our home offices or even our offices, not travelling around so much. Can you tell us what does the site actually look like at the moment? And I think there's a plan to host one of these meetings when we're allowed to meet face to face later in the year on site. What will it look like in September?
That's one for you, Paul.
I could actually refer this question to several of your colleagues on this call, Nigel, because several of the people on the call have actually visited the site. Now, as I said in the answer to James's question, there's no problem with social separation on Gravity. So we have a special offer at the moment on walking and talking tours. At the moment, it looks a little bit like a redundant gulag. It's got very few existing buildings or remaining buildings from the ROF era left. But remediation is complete. The link road is looks all but complete. It'll be completed next month, and so we are shovel ready. If we got the get-go today, because we are driven by the market, so it's not build and they'll come. We will use the existing roads on site, which remain. They're reinforced concrete roads that have been there for the last 80 years, and they're perfectly fit for purpose for haul roads and what have you. We've got blast mounds related to the old ROF because explosives were stored or manufactured within these blast mounds. So that if there was an energetic event, the energy went up as opposed to out. Those will be used in cut and fill across the site, but we are probably only a matter of months away from being ready with development platforms across the site once we get an order. There's absolutely no point in us spending money before we have to. We've recovered all of the in-ground utilities, so we've removed and stripped and salvaged all the lead sheath copper cable, ductile iron pipe, narrow gauge rail, reinforcing steel. We've got about 63,000 tons of concrete, clean concrete, stockpiled on the site, ready for crushing. Nothing has gone off site. Everything is recovered, repurposed, recycled, reused. So, you know, we started off, as Claire said, the concept of Gravity was established before we bought the site. You know, we all talk about BREEAM and LEED and what have you. I think my view, having been working on BREEAM and LEED projects for the last 20 years, is that it's a bit of a tick box culture. We are way better than that tick box culture. So, you know, recover, recycle, repurpose, reuse, grey water systems, ground source heat pumps, air source heat pumps, solar power. We will have it all at Gravity. We have to, because that's where the Build Back Better is taking everybody. Much easier to do with a blank canvas than it is if you've got existing buildings. Come and see the site, Nigel. You'd be very welcome.
Thanks very much. I'm looking forward to it.
Yep, I think I need to come over and see the site as well. I've not been, so.
You do indeed, Laura.
Any other questions from the group? Yeah, hi, Greg. Oh, you're on mute.
You're on mute.
You're on.
Okay, you'd think it was my first Zoom meeting over the last year. Yeah, to be fair, we've worked on the Gravity site, and it's really a good experience to work there. So thanks for that, Paul. The one thing I've been chatting to Paul for a number of months is that we were quite successful during COVID of doing these body temperature measuring devices to check if people had a temperature and possible COVID infection. And I've been chatting to Paul for a while because that only stops people getting into premises, and obviously keeping the air clean inside buildings is I think going to be the next growth point in the market. And I'm glad to see on Saturday, one of the government's advisors, this doctor that runs the Naked Scientist, was on TV on Saturday saying that he's recommending that air quality is really important for retrofitting in old buildings and fitting in new buildings. And I just wondered if Gravity were going down that route, making sure that you guys keep the air clean, because what's really interesting is that at Los Angeles Airport, okay, at all the entrances before you go in, and also online before you actually leave home to go to the airport, they have air quality index screens so that you can see that the air, and this is 99% of pathogens according to this doctor on TV. So before you leave home to go to the airport, you can actually see that the air is clean, so you're not scared to go to the airport to fly or to work or whatever. And I just wondered if Gravity were doing something, going to include something like that.
Yeah, I think air quality is going to be a key part of the planning process as part of the environmental impact assessment. So we'll have to look at the baseline issues in terms of what existing air quality is. But we do obviously want smart infrastructure on the site. So we'd expect to have air quality monitors on the site. And we'll also have a design code to try to encourage and persuade occupiers to design buildings that are suitable for not only net zero carbon, but health and well-being as well. So we will obviously want to have, PV on the roofs, but actually the ventilation of buildings has come up as an issue already. So we will definitely want to encourage that, even if it's pre-regulation. I'm sure there'll be regulations and building control measures coming in due course, but before that. So I agree with you completely. I think it's going to be a key issue going forward, and it's going to be something that we will have to design in to the planning process, and it is being considered already as part of the planning process.
Okay, perhaps we should meet up, because I think I might be able to help you with that.
So a little bit more on that as well, Greg. I mean, we were meeting with one of the biggest mechanical, electrical, plumbing contractors in the UK this morning, and they've recently finished an office block in London, which is a smart office block. They've got facial recognition cameras at the nearest tube station at the entry to the building. When people walk into the building, their lift is waiting for them. When they get up to their office floor, their coffee is ready for them. I think that's all a little bit scary. So it takes things a step too far. But I really do think that ozone treatment systems in the air conditioning and what have you, because over the last 20-30 years we've heard a lot about sick building syndrome. I think that things have moved on, and now we must look to aircraft air conditioning systems and building air conditioning systems, not recirculating what's unhealthy. So I think it's the next step. I agree with you completely, and Claire.
Yeah, excellent. I was going to ask a question, Claire, and perhaps anybody else really that wants to comment about the recruitments and the skills side of things, because you said that you were looking at 4,000 potential new opportunities. I just wanted to see, obviously you're working with the college, but just to see, whether that would be a mixture of unskilled, skilled, how you might look to manage that process, and just a sort of question around that, really.
Yeah, well, it's going to be occupier dependent. That's the honest truth, and obviously we can't we don't have a crystal ball. It would be lovely to have a crystal ball to forecast who the occupier or occupiers are going to be. And of course, the skills need, just looking at some of the slides I put up, the skills needs of some of those businesses are going to vary enormously. So what we're trying to do in the very short term is focus on building blocks. So we're working with a company or a charity called Bounce Forward in terms of looking at personal resilience of school children from primary ages up. And that's about making sure they're resilient, but also able to cope with change. Because what we're talking about is new sectors, new business opportunities, new training. It's going to be very different. So resilience is going to be a key part of a criteria for a workforce. So we're starting at the beginning and very young. We're also working with a charity called MOBI, which is George Clark's charity, to try to inspire and enthuse students from primary, secondary and into the college around modern methods of construction, innovation, different ways of thinking, as well as inspiring them to careers in the built environment. So again, trying to build those building blocks in very early to the process now. And we'll be trying to bid for some funding to continue that sort of work, to focus on digital, because I think digital skills, again, there would be cross-cutting. So we're trying to do sort of preparatory work around building blocks and generic skills. Clearly, as soon as an occupier lands, Paul can start cracking on with the site, but obviously then I can step back into the skills work to look at how we're going to not only recruit but also retrain and create that pipeline, you know, of employees. 4,000 jobs aren't going to arrive in one go overnight, so we're going to have time to build that up. And we will have to work with a number of different training providers, I think, to design that and link it into sort of multiple pathways. So you'd expect to have some senior staff, you know, coming in from overseas. You'd also want to recruit senior staff in the UK that are, let's say, highly qualified, very experienced engineers, maybe in automotive or aerospace. We'd also want apprenticeships, so designing apprenticeship programs to fit with the employer's needs and then building that program up like we have done at Hinckley is going to be a key part of that. So I think that's a really exciting part of the process, but one that's going to be very much occupier specific, but we're putting those building blocks in place already to make a start, because we know it's one of the things with the long lead-in time. You know, one of the things that I guess we would criticise Hinckley for is that they couldn't give us that workforce prediction far enough ahead for us to be able to anticipate it. So we've got a lot of learning on that, but I think we're doing as much as we can to anticipate it already.
Yeah, thank you.
Just to add to that, Laura, and you know, several of the companies on this call have already registered on our website, and indeed I've spoken to the FSB back in January to about 40 of their members, and the point that I would make as well is the opportunities for the provision of support services. So you've got everything, and for the people on this call, you've got everything from stationery, photocopiers, scanners, travel agents, cleaners, lawyers, accountants, insurers, banking, food and beverage. This site will need to be a fully serviced site. You can't get in your car and go to the co-op in Willavington if you've got 4,000 people getting into their cars and going to the co-op. So the opportunities here don't stop with just, you know, recruiting employees. You need all that support that goes with it. So it's sort of the gift that keeps on giving, because it's not a short-term construction win, which, you know, begging your pardon, that's more of the Hinckley model. It creates permanent jobs and permanent opportunities for support. you know, if we get 150 tenants on the site rather than 1 or 2 big tenants, the site will take 15 years to develop. And I'd be surprised if it created any more than 250, 300, 400 construction jobs at any one time. So the opportunities here lie in support services more than construction.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so quite different from Hinckley, but almost better, I would suggest. So Hinckley was always the turbo boost to the economy, creating confidence, creating that big injection of capital and revenue, uplifting the services, public services, housing. So that's done. You know, the long-term economic strategy for the area is to use this site as sustained economic restructuring, transformational opportunity. So this is where the social value and the long-term added value actually is. So that was me with my old hat on, if that makes sense. But that's why this site is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'm mindful of time. Has anybody else got anything they want to quickly ask? Yep, Ash.
Just a quick one to Claire, really. Going forward, we are working with Hinckley on various engineering and training projects. Maybe I could send you a message after the meeting. We could possibly have a quick chat, because we're employer focused and it's something we could possibly help with. And I've been to the Gravity site already, so it's. I was just wondering if that's okay with you to go forward.
Sure, and what we're going to do is we're going to use Bridgewater and Taunton College, particularly Andy Berry and Matt Tudor, as our tip of the spear, as I call it, on skills and training, to have the dialogues with the occupier. The occupiers don't want to talk to obviously lots of people. They want that single point of initial contact. And then we'll work up training and employment plans with providers and or other colleges, institutes of technology, universities, to meet that specific occupier requirements. So what we don't have at the moment is an occupier. so we're trying to put the building blocks in place to ready ourselves. So in that basis, you know, it'd be helpful for you to have a conversation with Matt, for example, you know, to make that connection already. And at the same time, you know, we will be ready, you know, to deal with that first, you know, occupier when we can secure them. So it's good to make all of those connections. So, you know, there's very little I can talk to you about in terms of the detail at the minute, because we don't have that first occupier with that first, you know, phase of needs, if that makes sense. But you know, you and Matt can certainly have a catch up and you know, establish a working relationship, so we're all ready to go when we need to.
Thanks, Claire.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ash. Lovely. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you for all the questions, and thanks to Claire and Paul from Gravity for supporting this Thursday Club. We'll be back next month. We've got Andy Cockcroft from EDF speaking next month. That'll be on the 3rd of June. I have recorded this, so I'll send that out with the follow-up email with contact details and everything, and hope to see you all next month. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yes, thank you. Cheers.